Let's jump into part two, social alchemy. Here we'll have most of our guest speakers, so things are about to get exciting. First up, a topic many of us know well, the art and the occasional overcomplication of friendship. Please welcome Aya Al-Hasani with her talk, Overthinking in Friendships.
Maybe I'm gonna trip and fall on this carpet, and maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm probably been reading the entire script wrong, and I'm just gonna forget my speech mid sentence. And maybe. That, ladies and gentlemen, was a perfect example of overthinking, with the bonus of it coming from a pro overthinker. Overthinking, sadly, is a big part of our lives, or for most of us at least, and God don't I envy you if you're not one of those many. It's a serious line of unproductive thought which makes us second guess our every single decision and makes us forget what we're doing, redo it over and over again. And my chemistry tests definitely know that. I mean, I would get my test, I've studied, I look at the answers, I'm like, the answer is B. Then I circle back, no. The answer is definitely not B, it's gonna be A. And then when I get my answers back and when I get my test back with the 80% on it, the answer was B eventually. However, I'm not here to talk about chemistry, simply because it just isn't my strong suit. What my strong suit is overthinking, sadly. Overthinking is this very big thing. We talk about only a small part of it to our friends or to teachers or to counselors. There are branches of it, such as overthinking friendships, which are not often talked about, and that is precisely what I want to talk to you today about. But what is friendship overthinking exactly, firstly? According to Rod Mitchell, who is a psychologist, it's the persistent worry about social relationships. However, it isn't only about worrying, according to me, because according to him, overthinking is just about rethinking every single conversation and worrying that there may be an argument in the future. However, I believe that there is an expansion to this definition, simply because overthinking friendships is deeply rooted in fear. Fear of unreciprocated feelings between you and the person you're talking to or you're in a relationship with. Overthinking is you reliving and rethinking every conversation in every possible way, analyzing tone, expression, finding metaphors and similes if you want. If you've experienced overthinking, specifically friendships, you know that it's at some point your head starts feeling like this overheating engine, which is just spinning and spinning, and the wheels are spinning endlessly, and there's absolutely no stopping them, which is yet another characteristic of overthinking friendships. It's like a spiral. Once you go downward, there's no bringing you back up. And no wonder it isn't just panicking or thinking, it's over something. Because you don't just think about it once or twice to make sure that everything's all right. No, you go over it tens and, I don't know, hundreds if you want, times, rethinking it in every possible way until it becomes harmful. And as a friend likes to call it, self-destructive. But let's visualize one such spiral. It always starts with the classical, why isn't that person responding to me? You go light. Maybe they're tired or they aren't just around their phone. And then we go into it. Maybe they're mad at me. Maybe they're mad at something else. Or, maybe it was that one thing I said maybe during lunch a bit snappier and now they just hate me. And then at some point you start hypothesizing and it just gets worse and worse on after that because you get into these unrealistic scenarios which aren't happening, but they are happening in your head. And then before you know it, you've hit rock bottom. And at the end, you've practically planned your own social demise. So yes, on one side, we are self-imposing discomfort. We are probably going to be moody for an entire day, and believe me when I say you can get annoyed for an entire day. Or, for example, it's incredibly exhausting to think so much over and over again. I, for one, remember I had this minor stumble upon with my hallway crush one day, and I went back. Admirably, I actually managed to postpone thinking about it until after I'd finished my work, but then the moment I closed my computer, it was on. I stayed up probably an extra 30 minutes thinking about it and reliving it, just savoring that 1 millisecond of a moment. And by the end, I was so tired, I could have easily done 2 more hours of productive work, and I wouldn't have been that tired. So, it is very exhausting. But the problem is that these effects stretch beyond ourselves. These are things for now, which I've been talking about, which affect only us. I mean, I can grab a coffee in the morning or I can finish my work later. The problem is that when they start expanding to our outer relationships, to specifically those relationships we're overthinking, these things stretch out beyond ourselves. Because when you overthink something, you're overdoing the next thing. You try too hard to believe that the person in front of you actually wants to be there and wants to be with you. You're looking for all these signs that maybe something is wrong or that everything is just perfect. And at some point, you start overdoing it too much. And when this happens with exterior relationships like project partners or workers, co-workers, or friends who aren't that close to you, that at some point can become a problem. So yes, it affects us, it affects our health, it affects our professional lives even. We go out every single day and we deal with hundreds of problems in this world, which is practically designed to make us go home, sit on a chair, grab our head and just say, oh my God, what a day that was. Because everything is just exhausting and tiring. And instead of doing everything possible to lift off that weight, we actually add on more by overthinking. But here's my million-dollar question, and I promise it's not what did somebody do 1933 October at 12 a.m., even though Nikki Kunchev would still know the answer to that. My question is a bit simpler. Why in the world do we actually overthink? Although the most correct answer would be a classical lawyer response of it depends, there are a few more general reasons which we can talk about. So let me start with some psychology. Everybody has a fight or flight syndrome, a fight or flight mechanism in them, which is basically their physiological reaction to a threat or to an event that they see as stressful. And that is something we have. Everybody can activate it. And it often gets activated by social norms or social expectations of us. We see them as threats. Our fight or flight mechanism starts going and starts working, and that exemplifies itself in overthinking. I, for one, know that I've had the notion to have that one best friend, which is my one and only best friend, since I was in first grade. And you know, that's going to be the best friend you're going to share those funky little bracelets with the BFF hearts on them. I had that notion, and I broke 4 friendships over the span of 7 years, simply because I couldn't conclude that everything will be fine, that I will find the friends who will make me feel great whenever I'm meant to be. I couldn't conclude that to myself. Instead, I overthought, and I looked for signs that something is wrong constantly. But let's say, for argument's sake, you're this superhuman who doesn't get affected by their fight or flight mode. They can't panic about such a thing, yet you overthink a lot. How could that be? One answer: past experiences. Our brain learns and knows how to associate events which are happening now with things that we've experienced in the past. And to deal with them, it often turns on a safety mechanism, which happens to be overthinking. If overthinking is very often a response to past things you've experienced, such as, I don't know, maybe having less friends when you were in elementary school, or having a bad relationship with your parents and wanting to overcompensate by having more and more friends. So yes, overthinking can happen for many reasons. But the most important part of knowing why you overthink is being able to turn towards yourself, to look innately and find out everything that is in you. Because once you discover yourself and maybe find things you don't really want to listen to or hear or see, you're actually going to find your $1 million answer. The answer is inside us, and it's crucial. Now, although I would love to give you a 1-minute Dora the Explorer pause to think about why it's crucial, no matter the fact that you've probably guessed it by now, it's crucial for knowing how to deal with overthinking friendships. Just like we have a fight or flight mechanism in us, we have a system which deals with allowing us to digest more, or to rest, or to feel loved, and to express love to those around us. That system is called the soothing system. And to enter in that so-called mode of the soothing system, you have to feel content and you have to feel loved, whether it's by someone else or whether you're loved by you. The key here is to find different ways of entering in that mode. Now, psychologists suggest things such as being very well aware that you're actually overthinking, or being mindful about it, or stopping and taking a breath, being self-compassionate and capable of forgiving yourself for maybe some of the mistakes that you've made during the day. Because let's face it, everybody makes mistakes. Now, last week, I caught myself starting to panic about this miniature thing. And instead of, applying the methods that I usually use, in the name of this TED Talk, I decided to use out these different methods that I read about. And actually, it did work. I stopped, I realized that what I was doing was completely useless, I took a few breaths, and then I went on doing what I was doing. So it does work. However, I would still love to share with you my hardly compiled list of things you can do to deal with overthinking friendships, which honestly might sound like 2 a.m. blab with your besties when you're at a sleepover, but I believe that's the point where we share the wisest things. Now, the first one is actually inspired by the pep talks my mother has given me over the years. And that makes it extra credible because we all know that if you're heading out in the morning and you're wearing short sleeves and you're at the door and your mother yells at you, "It's gonna get cold today, get a jacket, don't go out wearing short sleeves." And I yell back, "No, I'm not gonna go out with a jacket. I don't need a jacket, it's gonna be warm today. I'm gonna head out and then by lunch it's going to be pouring rain and I'm gonna get home and I'm probably gonna be sick because I've had a cold." She likes to say, always have a plan B. Always have that one thing which is no matter what happens, no matter what you're thinking about, you're going to have it right there next to you. That one pillar that you can put your back to and you know everything is going to be fine. That plan B can be your friends or something else. It's based on how you feel it. Again, it depends on you. That doesn't mean that the people who are your plan B or the things that are your fallback plan aren't important. No, that means that they're your ride or die. That means that when you plan your social demos, you know that you can turn towards them and just say, "Okay, look, I'm kind of in a hard place right now. I need you to bring me up." They're going to be right there to bring you up. Otherwise, I've come to the conclusion that everything in our lives is about mindset. Everything we do depends on the mindset that we have about the world around us. Whether we overthink a friendship or not depends on the mindset that we have. And now, after years of different friendship breakups and different lessons that I've learned, I have decided that the rightest mindset is just to believe that everything happens for some kind of reason, as cheesy as it sounds. Everything is going to be all right at the end, because everything happens whether to teach you a lesson or whether to show you something which you're going to use to your advantage in the future. Think about it. If something is going to fail anyway, why do we have to overthink it and then break it by ourselves? Why not, instead of overthinking it, give it a chance to maybe work out? And maybe in that case, things might actually start going well and everything will happen. So people, our days aren't that many anyway. Don't spend them overthinking, spend them living.